Q&A section. And before we get started here, if you have any questions you want to ask us, have an interesting topic that you want to pitch, or want to be a part of the show, send us an email at bastardsgamingnetwork@gmail.com or message us on the Bastards of Gaming Facebook group.
So the first question this week actually wasn't written in. It was asked to me in person by my good friend Buck Swaby. He said that he really enjoyed our music episodes and was wondering if we liked the original versions of a song better than remakes or remixes of it. And the example that he gave was Final Fantasy X. The remaster, when it came out, actually redid all the music with a live orchestra. So it was the original sequenced video gamey version in the original Final Fantasy X, and then the remaster had all these orchestrated versions, and he prefers the original video game type versions over the orchestrated versions.
Well, I think the original versions are obviously going to be more special and hold a more of a place in your heart because that's how you originally heard those songs. But yeah, in the case of Final Fantasy, you were sharing me some of those orchestrated remasters or re-recorded things, and I was like, holy shit, this is 1,000 times better. And like I said, even that one track that I pulled from Final Fantasy IX, I liked the remixed version of it way better than the one that was actually in the game. I mean, you can love both of them, but I like them being a little bit dressed up with actual instrumentation and stuff like that maybe wasn't in some of those older titles like that.
So some of the ones that I showed you were actually fan made ones that people just made with their own orchestra kits in a digital workstation. So even fans can do fantastic jobs dressing it up, as you'd say. For me, I don't know. Everything can coexist. The original can exist. Remixes can exist. Fan covers can exist. I love the original versions, of course, but the orchestrated stuff that people will come up with, or if the company ends up giving their music out to orchestras to go tour around, because I don't remember what some of the names are, but I know Square had an orchestra touring around doing all the Final Fantasy music, and I wish that came to Canada because I'd absolutely go to that. And I've gone to something that kind of had that theme with it, they did Halo, and they had some other Sony games and one Final Fantasy game where it was a concert that they put on, and I really enjoyed that. So I like orchestrations of video game music because it kind of goes hand in hand, and it's actually really cool what they can do with that stuff. I understand what Buck Swaby was going toward with the whole nostalgia part. I don't know, some original versions, you'll never do them justice as a cover or remake or remaster of it. Sure. I don't know. There's not too many games for me to kind of pull from to say if I lean one way or the other. The only one I could really think of was Dragon Quest VIII, which probably is the most popular Dragon Quest. When it first came out, it had all the sequenced video gamey type music in it. But when it was released in Japan and Europe, it actually had full-on orchestrated versions of the whole soundtrack that was in the game. So that was back in 2005, and that stuff wasn't released in North America. And then
I don't think there's a ton of examples of music being remastered, or even like you said, some of the fan stuff. I mean, it's technically not official, but I don't know. It kind of all folds back into just there's bands that do a cover song of an older song, and the cover is actually better than the original. It's pretty rare, but it can happen.
I was trying to think of games that have existed, kind of like Doom, where it kind of has a theme song, sort of, and with each sequel, they will redo the theme song. And I can't really even think of games that have the same theme that kind of go through it. Halo kind of has that. Maybe you could talk to that.
Yeah, Halo does that. They've remixed the sort of main Halo theme in every game. It's slightly different in pretty much every game for the most part.
And I'm sure you have favorites. Is the original your favorite, or a newer version?
Yeah, I mean the original is probably my favorite, just because it's it's all about nostalgia and stuff like that. But then when I was talking about Halo 2, then they brought in Steve Vai for that version, so it has all the lead guitar stuff and soloing over it and stuff like that. So that's probably the better version. but then they sort of remix it again, like I said, with every title, and it's a little bit different. It kind of sometimes matches the tone of the game a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess the first one is probably my favorite. But yeah, I mean, that's the only example that I know of that I can think of that sort of does what you're talking about. But you were talking about, was it Video Games Live that you went to? There's been quite a few of those where they have like a live orchestra play like video game music. Which was the one that you went to?
I totally forget which one it was now. It was just like, it wasn't themed for a certain type of game. It just kind of went through like 12 or 13 different games, and a lot of the songs I've never heard before because they weren't always like AAA titles. I forget what it was. It was still really nice and fun to go to it. I just wish like a really well-known one would come to Canada or something, where they had like all Nintendo games or something like that.
Yeah, so the only experience I have with that is going to the Star Wars version of that, where they played all the sort of music from the Star Wars movies with a live orchestra, and Anthony Daniels was there, and he would do these little interludes and talk in between the pieces, and they would show the parts from the movie in the background, and it was a pretty cool little production, honestly.
Yeah, that's cool. There's one thing that they do here in Toronto where they'll show a movie and they'll have a live orchestra do the soundtrack. And I didn't get to go, and my favorite movie's Gladiator, but they had one for Gladiator where like the orchestra was actually playing like the Hans Zimmer soundtrack, and I wish I could have went to that. It's like watch the movie and have them play the music.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking epic.
So to answer that question, I don't know. It's a hard question to answer because there's not too many examples of games that have updated the music or changed it or did anything
I'm
to
sure
it.
I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's more than we're kind of thinking of on the fly here, but I'm sure there are other examples we're not thinking of. But yeah, so to answer the question and wrap it all back around, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of give or take here and there. I don't know. Some remasters are better, some aren't. I like the original music in some games. I like covers of songs and stuff like that. It just depends. All right, and the next question comes from Red Dead Dad, who asks,